Alright, ladies and gentlemen and engineers, we're going to draw a mousetrap car in Autodesk Inventor for the laser cutter. So red text means stop and takes notes. When you see green text, do what it says. So sometimes you're taking notes, sometimes you're doing it, but do this as you go along. Alright, there's different Inventor file types. IPT is a part. That's something you're going to use for the 3D printer. Okay, and IM is an assembly. That's when there's like multiple 3D parts that work together, like the pistons working inside of a motor block. Okay, but where we're going to use a drawing file, a DWG. Okay, that's where you write that down. Okay, download the template. So this is the part where you do stuff. All right, so you're going to go to brianmillershs.weebly.com. You're going to go to Ape. You're going to go to Templates. And that's going to take you over here to this slide. And there's two of them. If you can't see it, click on the list view. And there's, oh, look, there's a laser cutter template. In Illustrator, you don't want that. Template Illustrator for the laser cutter, or Inventor. That's the one you want. So click on that. Then you're going to download it. Okay, and then once it downloads, you're going to open it up. Okay, and that's a good. So once this thing's done, you're going to click on that and open it up, and then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to save it. Save it in your Ape folder in a new folder called Advanced Mousetrap. Okay, so once you get this thing open, okay, yours isn't going to look like this yet because I've done some work here, but you're going to make sure you go File, and you're going to go Save As, and you're going to save it in your folder with your name on it. Okay, so there's my folder with my name on it. There's my Applied Physics and Engineering folder. And there's my Advanced Mousetrap folder. Save it inside there. You're going to give it some sort of good name that makes sense. Okay, so I called mine Mousetrap Cardboard Big Wheel version 6 because I save often. Okay, so we've saved it in our folder with our name on it, in our Ape folder, in a folder called Advanced Mousetrap. Okay, so now once you have Inventor, you click Tools, Document Settings, and click on the Standard tab. Okay, so you're going to set it up for millimeters. Okay, so we're going to click on Tools. We're going to go to Document Settings. Okay, and then we're going to click on the Standard tab. Click, and then you're going to choose either ANSI for millimeters or ANSI for inches. Okay, use millimeters. That is the measurement of science. Okay. All right, next, you are going to set it up for the laser cutter. Okay, so we got to make it the right size. The laser cutter is 24 by 12. So you're going to go to, if you don't have a sketch, you're going to go to Tools. No, I got to finish the sketch. If you don't already have a sheet, you're going to go to Tools. No, Manage. No, it should be Tools. Why is there no sheet? Ah, there it is. Okay, so we're going to go to Place Views, and if you don't have a new sheet, you can create a new sheet. Okay, then once you have a sheet over here, you're going to right-click on it, and you're going to edit that sheet. And then you're going to give it a good name for whatever part you're making, so type in a name, and then you're going to choose a custom size in inches, and you're going to make it 12 by 24, which is the correct size for the laser cutter. Okay, and click OK. Alright, so next. Okay, we got to set it up for the laser cutter, so we have to make the lines red and thin so the laser cutter knows those are supposed to be cuts. So back to Inventor, we're going to go to click Manage Styles Editor. Okay, oops, I lost it. Hold on, let's go back. Okay, we'll make it bigger. Okay, so we're going to go to Manage Styles Editor and be patient while it opens. Okay, and so on here, you're going to find Layers. Okay, you're going to open Layers, and you're going to go to Sketch Geometry. And what you want to do with the Sketch Geometry is change the color to that red right there. Change the size either to 0.03 millimeters or 0.001 inches. Okay, and then that's it. Click Done, and then you save any changes. So now, whenever you draw, your lines will be thin and red, and your laser cutter will know to cut them out. Okay, so we can skip this one. You don't actually need to do this one. Okay, if you want to set up a grid, you can do this. Okay, you can, if you wanted the grid lines in the back. Okay, so here, write this down. A bearing is a hollow tube for the axle to go through. It's hollow. The axle goes through it. They spin. The purpose is to reduce friction. This material does not, when it spins, it has a lot less friction than plastic or cardboard or other things. So you want to use an axle and a bearing. Okay, make sure you measure. Measure your axle, measure your bearing, measure your cardboard, because everything you do is going to be based on it. Okay, so watch me do stuff. And so the idea is to build something like this. So I had these holes are the right size, these pieces go together. You've probably already seen my mousetrap car, so you kind of understand what these pieces are. Okay, so when you want to, you already know how to add sketches and stuff, right? Or do you not know how to add a sketch? So we're going to go place views. If you don't have a new sketch, you can. So I'm going to double click on this guy, frame 6. I'm going to create a new sketch, and I can start drawing. Now, when you start drawing, you're going to do something like this. You're going to start at the top, and you're going to draw a rectangle. And notice that, let's say that I wanted my project to be 500 millimeters by 40 millimeters. I can use the dimension lines and I can make it the size I want. And the nice thing about it is, if I go back, I can say, oh wait, I didn't want that to be 40. I wanted that to be thinner and lighter, 35. Okay, so you can use dimension lines to make everything the exact size that you want. And then when you finish the sketch, you can see that they're not there. So then I want to go back to that sketch. I'm going to double click. All right. So the next thing that you can do is you can draw a circle. And so when you draw a circle, you click on it and you say, oh, you know what, I want that to be a particular size. So you can go to the dimension and say, hey, I want that to be exactly not that. So we'll double click it. I want it to be exactly 10 millimeters. No, we'll say 15 millimeters. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing. I want it to be a particular distance from over here. I'll say, hey, I want you to be a particular distance from that space to that space, and I'll say, oh, I wanted that to be not 23, but 25. So you can get things to be very accurate. Okay. The next thing you might want to do is we'll zoom in. So we'll grab the hand and we're going to come over here and we'll zoom in. Okay. So you might want to do your cutouts, right? Okay. So you're going to click and you're going to drag down, and let's say I wanted it to be exactly 7 millimeters. So I type in 7 tab. Okay. And then I click, and then I can say, oh, my cardboard is 4 millimeters thick. So I hit 4 tab and then I click, and then my gap is 7 again, so I'm going to type in 7 tab and then click, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep doing this. You can kind of get I'm not going to measure anymore, but you can kind of get the idea of how this is going to go, right? So I have all my little dovetail joints going on. So I would use the dimensions on those. Okay, but here's what I wanted to show you next. You can trim stuff out. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna trim this, and I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to trim that, and so not that, I'm going to undo that, it didn't like that. Okay, so now I have a nice dovetail joint. You hit finish, and you can see you have this nice little dovetail joints, okay? And I'm going to go back and edit it, and so you see these dimensions here, dimensions there, and if you wanted to add dimensions to other things, you could say, oh, I actually wanted this to be something different, and so you could click on that and say, oh, I wanted that to be 7, and you could change that to 7 and force it to be the size that you wanted. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to finish the sketch, but I'm going to show you something over here. Okay. When cutting out a hole for an axle or bearing, make the cut smaller than the axle make for the thickness of the laser beam. Look. So let's say you're trying to fit this through the cardboard. You want it to be snug, but you want it to actually be able to go through, right? But the problem is the laser beam actually has a thickness. So if you do it the exact size, so if you measure this with your calipers and you make your hole the exact size, well, it's going to be from here to there. See my little mouse? It's going to be from there to there too thick, right? So subtract 0.012 inches or 0.031 millimeters. Okay, so I'm working in millimeters, so I'm going to subtract 0.031 millimeters. So let me show you what that looks like in Inventor. Okay, so I'm going to grab my hand, and let's say I measure this. I did not measure this, but let's go into that sketch. Okay, so let's say, so I want to dimension this thing. Okay, so let's say I measured this thing, and my bearing or my axle, whichever is going through, was 8.89. Okay, well, I'm going to double click on that. Okay, 8.98 minus, and what did I say? 0.31. Okay, so minus 0.31. I hit enter, and you can see it shrunk it down. So I always want this to be that much smaller than the actual measurement of my thing. Okay, so subtract that. So when making a hole for the axle or the bearing on the 3D printer, that's the exact opposite. You're going to actually add 0.01. Okay, and we'll talk about that later. All right, that hopefully will get you started with Inventor, and you can make some progress, and you'll